This is Sean with Gate City Foundation Drainage. My YouTube channel just recently hit 1,000 subscribers, and so I thought I would do a 1,000 subscriber special and talk about how I got started, what got me into this type of work, and perhaps most importantly, why I only use Schedule 40 PVC. So that's what this video is going to be about, is getting started and maybe some of the equipment that I started with as well. This was the first drainage system I ever did. This was in 2012, and this was my house. And the problem I was having with this property was the crawl space was flooding and the septic tank wasn't working very well. And so if you stuck a shovel in the ground, it came back with like a septic-y smell to it. And so the land was fairly flat, but it had a pretty good hill on it. And so here you can see I caught this gutter, but this was actually 3-inch PVC. And so really when I was installing this, I was like, what's the best thing I can possibly do that will last the longest? And so of course I went with Schedule 40 PVC. This one, however, was 3-inch. And so you can see I caught that gutter, that was that gutter right there, came across here, caught this gutter on the corner here, and I'm going down to that big drop off. But part of this problem was I was planning on building a patio right here. And so there was a lot of water coming off of this downspout, and this area was so flat it really had nowhere to go. And so what I did is I incorporated the drainage under the patio, and it kind of, you can see that's an elbow right there. I think that's a 45, but it goes across here, and then it goes across the front of this deck. And so that was my very first one. This is another house here. This is also, I moved into this house in 2015, and this whole patio here was sloping into the foundation, and so I had to replace it all. So when I did the concrete, I went in here and did some channel drains, caught some gutters, same concrete guys I work with still today. And you can see this is my side door here, caught this gutter. We're doing a channel drain right there, and we're coming on down the way here and coming out and Ying out into here, and then this goes down across the yard. So this was my second drainage system, and for this one I went up to 4-inch PVC. And so again, with the 3-inch PVC, everything worked great. That system still works great today. But I said, you know what, let me go up one more to 4-inch, just for better volume, better flow. This was one of my rental properties here. And this crawl space was just completely, seems like every one of the properties I bought had problems with the crawl space and foundation. And so same kind of thing here. This driveway was just horribly sloping into the foundation, so it had to be replaced. So Harvey and his crew came out here, tore out the concrete, formed everything up. We came by later, like we always do with our drainage pipe here. And you can see, well, I guess this picture came before the last one, but there we're just laying it out. We're catching this gutter here. There's a gutter over in the front here somewhere, catching that. Going over here, catching this gutter. And then also a lot of water just flowed down the driveway, so we wanted to put a channel drain across there too. So you can see here, we're heading on that way. We're catching this gutter right here. And then right behind Corey, you can see that's our channel drain right there. And so here you can see we're stubbed out for a new gutter. There's our channel drain covered up, ready for concrete, and we're getting all this together, heading on down the way. And so there was no real good place to take the water on that particular property. And so this was our solution there. We did a dry well. And dry wells can be very tricky because they only work if the ground is really dry to begin with and you're not getting a lot of water in that area. So that was our dry well right there. And that system worked really, really well. This was a building I purchased in summer of 2018. And this was it had been vacant for about 2 years. It was really, really a mess. And the crawl space was completely flooded. And so there's a couple pictures of it. There's a side of it there. And so the first thing I did here was I just dug a trench across the back, because this whole area back up here is just a really steep hill up to the neighboring property. And there you can see my trench, and you can see some of the hill right there. And so there was a lot of it seemed like a lot of water was getting into the crawl space along this back edge here. And so the first thing I did back there was have some concrete poured across the back. And there you can see the building's got new siding on it already. The soffit's been repaired. I think the windows may be done, but we're getting the concrete done here. And so here you can see we've got our concrete across here. We've got some pipes stubbed out, and you can see my backhoe's bucket right there, and I'm just trying to dig this out a little bit. There's a good picture. You can see the concrete along the back of the building. There's the first gutter. There's a center gutter that I stubbed out for, and then this one back here is around the corner right there, and you can see the bucket of my backhoe right there, the loader bucket. And so even at this time, before I was doing any drainage work, I still knew that if you had water in a pipe, don't drop it into a perforated pipe. So this here is a perforated pipe, and this is going to be the first French drain I ever did. And so we'll come back to that a little bit later. But there you can see the trench open. There you can see the concrete. So there again, even at this point, I knew that more gravel was better. So I dug my trench really big. I just filled the thing with gravel. And there you can see I'm got my gravel there, and I'm filling in over here. So over here, this part was French drain, and so this was all perforated pipe. Once it got to about here, it turned into solid pipe. And so here I'm just covering up the trench with dirt. There you can see we've made a little headway on there, filling it up with gravel, but we didn't have good access in here, so we had to fill it in so that I could drive over it and then dump more gravel and then fill it in and dump more gravel so I could drive over it. And so same building, I'm catching another gutter here and going out to this corner here. And there you can see that's the backhoe that I started out with. There's the outfall. So I've got a perforated pipe a solid pipe coming from one gutter, the solid pipe coming from the other gutters, and then that's my perforated pipe right there. Here you can see we caught another gutter on the front of the building, went under this sidewalk here. And there you can see we're under the sidewalk with our PVC. And so there's another picture showing it's going right to the creek right there. This is the building that neighbors my building, so it sits up much higher, and so there was just water just pouring off this building going into my crawl space. And so I called this guy, the building owner, and he has that same slope in the backyard, and the back of his building is just it's in really terrible shape with all the water, and he gets water running in through the back door all the time, so he already knew there were major drainage problems. And so when I called him and talked to him, I basically said, I'm willing to do the work and do the labor. And he said he would be willing to supply the materials. And so he had probably about $600 worth of PVC delivered. And we went ahead and caught gutters. We caught his back gutter, installed a catch basin back here, brought it down. And so my building is sitting right over here. And so we dropped it into 6-inch PVC right here because we had so much volume. See, look at all this roof here that he's got. And I have a lot of roof as well. And so there's our 6-inch main. And you can see in this picture, so this is what we were just looking at up here. That pipe comes down, our 6-inch starts right there. We're catching this gutter and this gutter into this 6-inch. And then that's going into this drainage basin or drainage ditch at the front of the property. And there's just a picture of my backhoe. In these clips, you can see a major rain event that we had. This was about a year after I had installed all that drainage work at my fourplex. And this is the neighboring building here. That's that front gutter that we looked at a minute ago. And here I am walking down the hill towards my building. And you can see here, we caught this gutter here. And that's a condensate line from the furnace under the building. And I'm walking now toward that front drainage ditch. And this was a pretty heavy rain event, and so I wanted to go out there and see how things were doing. And There you can see that's our front gutter right there. And those are both going into that 6-inch main that goes across there. And here you can see there's that 6-inch main, and look at how deep, look at how full that drainage ditch is. So usually there's barely any water in that drainage ditch, and that 6-inch pipe is literally underwater, and yet it still has such good fall to it and is pitched the way it's supposed to that it drains. Here I am at the other side of the building taking a look, and this is the, I guess, the back corner there, and you can see me looking in there, and pretty good amount of rain coming across there. And this is that outfall with the 3 pipes coming out of it. And so take a look at what's going on with that outfall. Those pipes are usually a foot out of the water. I was over at this building today. Today is January 9th, 2021. And I was over at that building today looking at some stuff. You can see that we've got a little bit of snow on the roof, and so the gutters are actually flowing pretty well. So let's take a look at where that one's coming out. There it is. I honestly haven't looked at that outfall in about 2 years, but that's flowing really well. This one's coming over here. These are those 3 outfalls that I showed you earlier, and that one on the farthest one is from the French drain that I put in. And no matter what time of the year I come out here and look, there's always water trickling out of there. And so that works really well. This is what the crawl space of the building looked like today. And keep in mind, this thing had several feet of water in it when I first bought the building, and it was really tricky to get this dried out. And so in spring of 2019, my buddy who does heating and air was over here, and he's the one who put in the furnaces. He was over here putting in new filters. He called me and he said, "Sean, this crawl space is dry." And I said, "I know, I did my drainage pipe and everything." And he said, "You don't understand, it's dry under here." And I said, "Yeah, I know." And my heating and air guy, my buddy, is the one who said, "You need to do drainage work." And so there's a picture of him. That was on the first job we went and looked at after I started doing the drainage work. But he's really the one who said, "You need to do this." And the real estate market had been heating up and prices were going up, and so I was looking for something a little bit different to do. I already had a lot of equipment. I had the backhoe at that point. I had my truck and trailer. And so this guy right here is the one who got me thinking about maybe drainage work is something to do. At this point, I started researching drainage work and some of the people doing stuff on YouTube and some of the materials and practices and things like that. And I quickly realized that everybody was using corrugated. And I had dismissed corrugated years ago and really couldn't believe people were still using it. And so I already had a lot of experience using PVC and putting in plumbing systems and stuff under houses. So I already knew all the parts and pieces and what the fittings were called. And so I just decided that I was going to continue using PVC like I had done on my personal properties. And that became my angle, was that I'm using solid PVC. And it's funny because whenever a customer calls me, they seem to have already been through the corrugated, and they call me specifically because they see I use PVC. And so most of my customers are very well educated in drainage systems because they've already been through the ones that don't work. And so that became my angle, my brand almost, if you will, is that I used solid PVC and Schedule 40 over Schedule 30. At this point, not only was I getting help from my buddy Red, the heating and air guy, he helped me with my name and helped me with the idea. Once I got the business going, I reached out to a family member who is into digital marketing, and she just instantly got me set up. She sent me an email and said, "Go to this website, sign up, go to this website, sign up, talk to Google, do this, do that." And so I was very quickly out there. And that was very, very helpful, getting her expertise in on it. This is the info for the digital marketer that I used to help me get going. So you can go to elisaconnor.com/more sales, and she can help your business get started. As far as YouTube goes, I have a personal channel on YouTube, but it's very discombobulated. There's a lot of stuff up there. And so when I started the company, I made the tough decision to start from scratch with YouTube all over again with just the drainage work type stuff on there. So let's take a look at my very first job. This is a clip from that very first job that we did. And look at the size of the trench there that I had to dig with the backhoe. And even with that size trench, we still had a terrible time getting our angles correct. And so I really quickly realized I needed a trencher. So when I first started out, I was using that Kubota compact tractor loader backhoe. And that worked well. I'd used that for a few other houses, but for digging, that was the wrong thing. So the trenches it was digging was too wide, and a backhoe is just a very slow piece of equipment. It can do a lot of different things, but it can't do anything very well. And so after doing that very first job with that backhoe, I knew I needed a trencher. And so this was my first purchase toward the company. And I had rented those wheeled ones before that weigh like 1,000 pounds, and they're really hard to maneuver and they get stuck everywhere. So as soon as I found out about tracked trenchers, I knew I had to have a tracked trencher. And so I got this one. So I ended up getting this one brand new, and the reason was because the dealer was offering 0% financing for 2 years. So I was able to get this for a very small amount of money and financed it. And I took the cash that I was going to use to buy this, and I used it to purchase my mini excavator. So let's take a look at that one next. If you're going to do anything with trenching and running pipes and things, that trencher is probably my number one used piece of equipment. And I had rented the wheeled ones before that are they're super heavy, they get stuck, you can't move them. And so as soon as I found out about that Toro with the tracks on it, I knew I had to have a tracked trencher, and it's been great. And so make sure if you're getting a trencher, make sure you get a backfill blade with it, and make sure you get the crummer, which keeps the debris in the trench and in the chain so it spits it out. So those were two really important accessories. But that trencher is by far my number one used machine. And took out a big loan, $13,000 on it. And every job I did, I made a trencher payment, no matter if I had one due or not. And that way I was always keeping up with it. So I got that paid off pretty quickly. And that's the only piece of equipment I financed in the company. This excavator was the second piece of equipment I bought. And working that backhoe, I got a lot of experience working it, but it was very, very slow. And so when I started doing more digging, I knew I needed an excavator. I'd never run one before. But I found this one. I wanted the KX018 because the tracks pull in on it. And so it can fit through narrow spaces, it can get into backyards, and it's very nimble. But it's also a very strong machine for what it is. I also knew I wanted a Kubota because my backhoe was a Kubota, and I never had any problems out of that thing, so I really wanted a Kubota. I found this thing down in Florida, so I ended up having to go down there to get it. But I wish I had gotten one with a hydraulic thumb already installed. So I ended up installing this hydraulic thumb on this one, but if I had it to do again, I would have bought one that already had a hydraulic thumb. And when I bought my larger excavator, I specifically wanted one that already had a hydraulic thumb on it. And so the skills I learned running the backhoe translated over to this, and so I was able to just jump on this and go. So I've gotten better at running it over the last year and a half, but I've gotten an absolute ton of work done with this machine. This has been a great machine for getting a variety of different tasks done, and I liked it so much that I went ahead and got a bigger Kubota excavator too. So this was my second big purchase for the company. There's a picture of the excavator the day I went to pick it up. And it was listed in Florida, and I had texted the seller about it, and it was listed in some really weird, obscure place. And I pretty much forgot about it. And then I was looking, and I knew I wanted this excavator, this Kubota, the KX018. And so I found the seller again, and I guess I texted, it was like a month later, texted him again, he still had it. And I just made him some offer and said, he's never going to take this offer, so I at least tried, and I don't have to drive to Florida. But he took the offer, and he actually ended up selling me the trailer as well. So this is just a really lightweight trailer, which I sold pretty quickly afterwards. But here I am in Florida, about to leave to go back to North Carolina. And check out what happened on the way. I blew one of the trailer tires on I-95 in South Carolina. Really, really bad stretch of road. And so I was barely able to limp it over to a Northern Tool, get the tire off, the old tire off, and get a new one on it, because I forgot to bring a spare too, so that was a big mistake. But that got me on down the road, and I now had an excavator. So that's a little bit of history about how I started the company and why I got into it in the first place. And it's funny because early on I had a lot of support, and it seemed like people were actually searching for the best materials to use. But I quickly found out that corrugated versus solid PVC is like the most polarizing topic there is on YouTube. And so lots and lots of comments I get about why corrugated is better, but it's just not better. It's just a lot cheaper and a lot easier to use, and that's why people use it. And so I get a kick out of seeing these systems work. I get a kick out of creating something and solving a problem. And so I really like going back and getting the footage during the rain events. And my number one comment on my whole channel is that people really like seeing the drains in action during the rain. And so for the future of the channel, I'm going to try to ramp up that portion of it and do a little bit more, instead of just an afterthought kind of thing, showcase a little bit more the systems working in the rain. It can be a giant pain to catch them in the rain because I'm off doing other things, and I've driven to a house before when it's raining at my house and it's not raining there. But I really think it ties it together. I really think it is a testament that the PVC works really well. And so I'd like to thank you all for watching this video and for supporting my channel. And I plan on doing some more of the PVC versus corrugated type of stuff in the future. And so if that sounds interesting or educational to you, leave me a comment below and let me know what you think a direction for that type of video might be. Thanks again.